Hi, everybody. It's Dan Cerrucci. It's just a tiny little bit after 9 o'clock. We're pretty much on time. And as promised, I am here for tonight's chat. We've been doing these pretty regularly on a weekly basis recently, I'm happy to say. And I am with, even though he's very young, I'm going to say I could almost say he's an old friend of mine because we met quite a few years ago. Brian Fitzherbert. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Dan.
It's my pleasure, Brian. It's always a pleasure to have these sessions with you. And gee, how long ago was it that we met, Brian?
Ooh, 7, 8 years ago, maybe. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, 7 or 8 years ago. It's hard to believe. And I identified Brian very early on as a really smart, dynamic, energized young conservative / young Republican. Um, and, as I've said on these chats before, Brian, I'm very instinctive about people. Okay. So I just get a feeling about somebody almost as soon or within moments after I meet them. And I just had a feeling that Brian was the kind of person that I wanted to get to know. And Brian, you're now chair of the Atlantic County Young Republicans. I know you've been in that position for a while, and you're also executive director of the Young Republican Federation of New Jersey, which is a pretty significant group. And of course, Atlantic County has become a real center of what you might call the red wave in New Jersey. And Brian, when we planned this chat, we didn't know that we were going to have to be talking about what we're going to be talking about tonight, unfortunately. But there's a famous quote. It's attributed to the former late British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan, who said that whatever you're going to face along the road, it's going to be determined by events, dear boy, events. And this past week has been an eventful week. And we've got to talk about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. When did you find out about it, Brian?
Almost when it happened. I happened to have my phone near me while I was working, and I got a text message from a close friend saying that Charlie Kirk had been shot. I opened my phone. I opened social media, and fortunately, the first video I saw was his assassination, which all but confirmed within seconds a fear when I heard that he was shot, to the point of what the outcome was going to be. And I, broke down completely. And to think that it's been 6 days is still devastating. I wrote a statement after talking to some YRs in Atlantic County that I issued that night, and it was the most difficult verbiage I ever had to say. I didn't know what to say other than how devastated this was, and the fact that I saw other comments and statements saying it was a campus shooting, a killing, etc. No, it was a political assassination. That's what it was.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was driving around here down in Camden County in my hometown of Cherry Hill. I had to go to the other side of town. And I happened to have on the radio Fox News on their Sirius radio network. And I, of course, heard the very, very first report, the very early report. And I sort of knew right away, even though I hoped for a better turnout, a better outcome, I knew right away that this was not going to be, it was not going to turn out to be good news. Of course, in my lifetime, I've lived through numerous assassinations, including several political assassinations, including three or two within 1 year, excuse me, two within 1 year, that being Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King. In fact, within a few months. And I lived through the assassination of John F. Kennedy. But this was, you said he was 4 years younger than you.
Yeah.
So a very young guy, 31 years old. Who had, I mean, did you meet him at any point, Brian?
Yeah, I met him years ago, and like I said, he's 4 years younger than me, but he was light years ahead of me. He would have been president. I have no doubt about it. This was a guy who the passion, the energy behind him, and all he did was just emphasize debate, conversation, civil discourse. I mean, this guy was a family man. He was a husband, a father. We had children the same age. And he was so effective. He was so wise. I mean, he started Turning Point USA at 18 years old. We've all heard the story. And to take that entrepreneurial risk and courage at the age of 18 to try and form this organization, because he was wise. He could see the vision of where we are today versus nearly 12, 13 years ago, that the Republican Party at that time, right, Romney was the standard bearer, was not doing what they should have been doing. And Charlie goes and creates an entire organization to tap into high school and college kids to actually do the things the Republican Party should have been doing. And he was never a young Republican. He was never a YR. He formed this organization as a nonprofit, and then he's formed Turning Point Action and all the spinoffs, Club America for High School, etc. And he was so wise to see that, because he needed to work independently from the party apparatus. And that was the original design of Young Republicans. But all too often, unfortunately, there are YRs that just don't have any courage, and they just do what their county party chairs tell them to do. And Charlie built this just juggernaut of a turnout machine that is primarily responsible for Donald Trump getting elected. No question about it. And he did it out of nothing.
And he set out to change the political trajectory of a whole generation.
Yeah.
And what he accomplished is nothing short of breathtaking. Mm-hmm. Because you could go back and look at the polls, Brian, from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and particularly among young men, but among both younger men and younger women, the polls totally flipped.
Yeah.
From predominantly Democrat to predominantly Republican.
Yeah, he cranked it from basically a quarter, 25%, to nearly 45% in the age of Trump. And he did that, and it's so amazing, because you see all the videos now, and I've been sharing on social media as much as I possibly can to just spread his vision, spread his message. And again, he was so smart that he challenged people that disagreed with him to come ask him questions, prove him wrong. He gave them the microphone. He didn't force them to. They volunteered. They came there. And he had these debates and these conversations. He knew he was never going to convince the person he was debating. But he knew that there was a third person, fourth person, and so on, watching and listening. And that's who he was able to convert. And he was very effective at doing it because he activated young people, because he knew that young people use social media as a medium, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, you name it. They don't look at old media at all. And that's how he was able to connect. And he just allowed the discourse to happen. He facilitated the conversation and debate. And as a result,
he came in like near the beginning or 1/3 into, let's say, the beginning of the death of old media.
yes.
And he just seemed to sense where it was all going. I remember being at CPAC and going into the expo, because they have a huge expo at CPAC. And the booths, to get a booth there, to rent a booth there is not cheap. And he was a great fundraiser too. And I came in to CPAC, and it was this huge, I wouldn't even call it a booth. It was like a presence, okay? Right when you entered, Turning Point USA. And my wife was with me, and I said, "Oh my God, what is this?" And I saw all these clean-cut young people welcoming us. I had never seen anything like it at a conservative. I mean, I've seen young conservatives, don't get me wrong, and I've always enjoyed them and been enthralled with them, really. But this was overwhelming. And that was my first exposure to him.
Yeah.
And the energy that he brought to it, Brian, they said he was tireless.
Oh, absolutely tireless. You ever see him? I mean, it's crazy because this was 2012 when he started. I was, a year or two out of college. And I remember seeing and reading and hearing him. And I too saw him at CPAC. CPAC is a wonderful thing for young people, young conservatives, to go network, meet, and just get exposure to. And there's this guy, Charlie Kirk. And it was impressive because he took like I said before, he took the biggest risk of all, was to, instead of go to college, form an organization and try to spread conservative principles to young people in places like high school and college, where that's not the cool thing, but he made it cool. And it was attractive to do that. It made people want to be engaged instead of the Republican Party. There was Turning Point USA. I can join Charlie's organization.
He did it in such a positive way. Now, Bishop Robert Barron, who's just an amazing, he started this group, Word on Fire, which the word being the word of the gospel, of course, and he's a Catholic bishop. And he's really someone who has emerged in the new movement of Catholicism, which has been so energized by the selection of an American Pope now. He wrote something in First Things, and here's what he said. I'm going to quote a part of it, Brian. "To my mind, the single ugliest consequence of Charlie's murder is the plethora of videos celebrating his death. And these are coming not just from weirdos," these are Bishop Barron's exact words now, as I'm reading them, "not just from weirdos in the fever swamps of the internet, but in alarming numbers from teachers, professors, professionals, medical personnel, and government officials. I don't care," the bishop says, "how dramatically you might disagree with someone. If you celebrate his murder, you have lost any sense of the dignity of that person." End of quote. What do you make, Brian, of these people seeming to excuse, pass over, even celebrate this assassination?
So sadly, I've gone out of my way to go down these rabbit holes to see this, because to see evil, to fight it, you have to see it in all its walks. And the fact that it's not a one-off, it's not a here or there. There are countless examples, and we're seeing them in the news. And there's accountability, because just because you have the First Amendment right to say whatever you want, no matter how dreadful and vile they may be, you don't have a right to a job or to be employed. And people have every right to no longer pay someone to do a job that they find the person's character to be abhorrent. And I've received direct messages myself about the posts I've been sharing about Charlie Kirk on my social media. And one in particular, which was beyond appalling, was an attack on Erica Kirk's words that she said on Friday. I made a post about her words, about what she said she would do with regard to Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk's future. And there was actually an individual that had the gall to say, this is the problem. This is not helping. You people need to do better. It's abhorrent. And the sheer fact that there is this many people celebrating the death of a husband and a father for no other reason that they had conservative Christian views takes us to a very dark place. Takes us to a very dark place. And as J.D. Vance, the vice president, said, you cannot unify with people like this.
Oh, it was very, very powerful. It was very powerful. If you heard Vice President Vance's on Monday when he hosted the Charlie Kirk radio program, which is heard on the Salem Network weekdays. Where I am, it's heard around noontime. It's at various times in various parts of the country, I would imagine. But here's another thing that this young man did. He did a daily radio program, okay, in addition to everything else. With regard to Erica Kirk, I watched her statement live, of course, and it was absolutely heart-wrenching. And some people have asked me about it, and I said, well, whatever she said, you have to understand that this woman has been traumatized, okay? And she was probably still in a traumatic state when she said what she said, okay? So it's just incredible that she was as articulate as she was, that she was as determined as she was, and that she was as in control, so to speak, or seemingly in control as she was. Again, saying that you have to understand she was probably still in a traumatic state, wouldn't you say?
I would say so. I mean, the amount of grace and faith that she was able to muster to get in front of a camera and talking to a microphone about the love of her life, the father of her children, who had been assassinated in front of her just days earlier, to basically stand that I'm going to continue my husband's vision, legacy, everything that he built. To have that kind of discipline is not the right word, but obviously the Lord was with her the entire way.
And they said, I haven't read up on this, but it would seem to be so, because Charlie was very close to Vice President Vance, and apparently he had met or was about to meet with Bishop Barron. I mean, Bishop Barron, I believe they'd been in contact with one another. There was some talk that, and I believe his wife is Catholic. I'm not entirely.
Erica's Catholic, Charlie's Protestant.
She's what?
Erica is Catholic, Charlie is Protestant.
Okay. So his wife he was raised as an evangelical, as I understand it. Yeah. And his wife is Catholic. She was clutching rosary beads. Okay.
That was his necklace.
She was clutching rosary beads?
She was, and that was Charlie's necklace that she gave him. It was ripped from Charlie when they took him after he was shot.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Charlie was not really a jewelry guy, but Erica got him that, and he wore it until the day he died.
And they said that he was exploring or becoming close to becoming a Catholic. And I think one of the other aspects of this story, Brian, that has not really been examined carefully is the resurgence, what appears to be a resurgence of the Catholic Church among young people. Okay? Now, I saw it a while ago when I went on the campus of my beloved alma mater, Villanova University. And I had been invited back there to talk to some of the students. And I could already see that something was happening. And of course, you couldn't talk about Charlie Kirk and without talking about his faith, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this was intertwined whenever he went out to speak.
Yeah.
It was intertwined.
It was intertwined. And he had the audacity to say the normal thing of, get married, have children, go to church, praise God. And again, here in 2025, the fact that we even have to pause to think about that is scary and how far we've fallen. But there was a resurgence because he talked about that. He was very, very, let's say he was not afraid to wear it on his sleeve. He was not afraid to say it and talk about it and invoke it any way that he could. It didn't matter. And it was, even if someone wasn't a believer, he prayed for them.
And proclaim it and espouse it.
Yes.
And actually, they said he knew the Bible inside out. He knew numerous gospel verses, Bible stories. I mean, in addition to, somebody said, I forget who it was that knew him and said, how do you know all these things? Because he was quoting philosophers. And he said, well, I just read a lot of books. Yeah. So he was only in college for a short time, if he was in college at all. And was, I guess, self-educated?
Yeah, that was one of the things that was inspiring that I learned that I also took with me was the sheer fact is I read all the time. I mean, you and I have joked privately about all the books that I try to read on the beach or, reading at night, etc. I try to read as much as I possibly can, Bible included. And that was something that Charlie did. When you're able to self-teach, self-taught, whatever you want to put it, with regards to politics, history, philosophy, religion, that becomes very powerful because it just pulls out of your brain whenever you're having a discussion and debate because you've read it, you've comprehended it. It's not regurgitation like it is in school. It's actual comprehension where you can use it for critical thinking and debating. And Charlie Kirk was beyond most in the millennial generation in terms of that capability.
Well, because you're not reading it because you're compelled to read it. You're reading it because you want to read it. And you have a taste for the learning, and you become involved with what you're reading. And I might say, folks, that Brian is very, very busy, has a very important job in the defense or defense-related industry. He has a wife and child, young child. He's the father of a young family, which I know is something that he takes very seriously and very responsibly. He's, as we said, the executive director of the new Young Republican Federation of New Jersey. He's the chair of the Atlantic County Young Republicans. He's involved in various organizations. He's on the radio fairly regularly down there in Atlantic County, which is in the southernmost part of New Jersey at the Jersey Shore, a world famous Jersey Shore, which is one of the beautiful shorelines and beach areas in the country, if not the world. What brought you to the Jersey Shore area, Brian?
So this is a fun story. So born and raised in New Jersey, North Jersey in particular. And in the summers, my family would come down to the shore, to Jersey Shore, to Ocean City. And summer in, summer out, that's what I did. And I fell in love with the area, with the activities, the stuff to do, that when I was going back and forth to college in the summers, I started living down here myself. And it was just, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it in terms of the activities to do, the shoreline, like you said, the boardwalks. It was just so unique. And the reason I can say that with such confidence is after I graduated college and started working in the defense industry, I moved all across the country. I went to Texas, I went to Maryland, I went to South Carolina, I went to Kansas, I went to Massachusetts, I went to Pennsylvania, did another stint in Maryland. I lived all across this country. And a place like South Jersey, which is arguably the 51st state, is just a unique place. And it's thankfully in recent years, it's gone a lot more red than it has been. And it's the place to be. And it's, like I said, there's nothing else like it in terms of just looking around how beautiful it is, an escape, you name it. When people said you went all across the country and you still wound up in New Jersey, what were you thinking? I'm like, have you been to South Jersey? So,
And I've explained here on these chats before that North Jersey and South Jersey are like two separate areas, and many people from North Jersey, the only time that they ever come down to South Jersey is to go to the Jersey Shore. And many people from South Jersey, the only time they ever pass through North Jersey is to go to New York.
yeah.
So it's a very unusual situation. Benjamin Franklin compared New Jersey to a barrel open at both ends, the ends being New York and Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
But further south from Philadelphia, of course, there's Atlantic City, which is pretty much known all over the world, now a world famous gambling mecca. But below Atlantic City, there are numerous shore towns that are absolutely charming and captivating. Ocean City being a very, very famous family-friendly summer destination, and Cape May being, one of the most historic and distinctly beautiful places in the country.
No, absolutely. I mean, we have so much down here. And, I've talked about this, sound like a broken record, but because of what I do for a living, I especially appreciate the fact that we have the Tech Center, the FAA Tech Center here, the 177th Fighter Wing, the Coast Guard Training Center, the only one in the world. Every single coastie goes to Cape May to get training. We have just unimaginable infrastructure that could be leveraged because, like you said, we're between Philly and New York. And guess what's not too far away? Baltimore and DC and Boston. We're in such a corridor. And the fact that South Jersey, for the most part, is a peninsula, it also allows for, the Bay Shore. It allows for everything else in terms of capabilities that could be developed over the decades ahead. Notwithstanding that we have, the idea of Cape May Diamonds, we have the idea of the lighthouse, in both Cape May and Absecon. We have all the boardwalks, obviously Atlantic City and Ocean City being the most famous, and just that family-friendly mentality that I just loved growing up as a child, going to Ocean City and hitting the boardwalk, seeing, unfortunately now it's gone, but Wonderland and Playland and Surf Mall, all those kinds of things were just a constant for me in everything that I eventually came back to, whether it was moving around the country for work or whatnot.
And I see that they're hoping that they're going to be able to save some portion of Wonderland or some way, because they managed to stop that huge, I don't know whether it was hotel condo development that they wanted to have there.
Yeah, it was, they were trying to build a hotel, or one of the developers down here was trying to build a hotel. The locals in Ocean City weren't fond of the idea, so that's still in flux right now because it looks like it's going to be sold. I don't know who it's going to be sold to. There's a couple people that have put bids in on it. So we'll see what happens. But that has always been a fixture. That was a fixture for almost 100 years in Ocean City.
It's a struggle, and I think it's wonderful that there are a group of people in Ocean City that don't want to compromise the character of what is a unique family vacation attraction. And I know there's people that go back there generation after generation. It has a very, very loyal following, and it's really in many ways a throwback to a simpler time. I think that's one of the reasons why people like it. It's a throwback to a simpler time, and though it is a pretty substantial area, it has a small town feel to it, an intimacy, if you will, that people are drawn to. And these are a lot of the things that you have in South Jersey that it's so important. I know you feel this way, Brian, to protect.
Yeah, conserve.
And we managed to fight off the windmills too. Tell us about that.
Yeah,
the wind turbines.
Yeah, so there's a lot of organizations, a lot of people that were involved in this. One of the other organizations that I run, I'm the president of Liberty and Prosperity. It's a nonprofit organization. And we sent out, I don't know, 5,000, maybe 7,000 postcards talking about the pitfalls of wind turbines, along with the other groups across South Jersey that also did activities to raise awareness and attention to this issue. And for the time being, especially with President Trump in the White House, this has been defeated. However, there's still battles that loom with regard to the cables. But again, this is another thing we've seen in other places that has been tried and failed. And yet they were trying to do this in South Jersey. So elected officials, plenty of organizers, they all had their lane and collectively were able to basically push back on this. We did our tiny part at Liberty and Prosperity by trying to bring attention to this with our website, with our postcards, the magic postcards that Seth Grossman created. And ultimately, we did our part, and hopefully this is a battle that's been won, and it's not one that's been paused in the short term.
And this was a battle, folks, against the Democrat Murphy administration, and the Democrat-controlled House and Senate of New Jersey. So we're fighting a really, really entrenched group here. And I have to say that the unified effort of so many people down there along the shore, and particularly in that part of South Jersey, was really, really very admirable. And for now, and with the hope that Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican gubernatorial candidate, becomes governor, with the hope that he succeeds, then it will be pretty safe, one might say, that this will not these wind turbines will not be built. For one thing, would have completely destroyed the view, but even beyond that, there were so many other problems that it would have just been a disaster.
Well, from a fundamental standpoint, you can't store wind energy, number one. Number two, these things are massive to build from a manufacturing standpoint and assembly standpoint.
And you would know something about that, Brian.
I know a little bit about that. And that you need to know the end game, because what happens when they've reached their product life cycle and they are no longer working? Guess what? In California and in the Netherlands, when they've outused their use, they just rust and they stay out there and they collapse. You have to have not only a way to build this, but to maintain, repair, overhaul, and replace. And no one's thinking about that, notwithstanding the fact that it's unproductive. It doesn't work from an energy standpoint. It's not a cost saver, because obviously there's all this government help being subsidized. Otherwise, you wouldn't need it. And again, to your point, the views and the impact on the ocean life, the whales, that's for a particular reason, that all of a sudden we had all these whales washing ashore.
And now that doesn't seem to be happening now.
Imagine that.
Very few people have talked about that, but since they stopped this development out off the shoreline, it doesn't seem to be happening now.
So I'll give an example that ties into what I've done in my career in defense. When, let's say, the Navy has a request for a new submarine, let's call it a Columbia class to replace Ohio class nuclear submarine. When they try to test all kinds of capabilities for a submarine to be able to operate within the ocean, they do all kinds of tests that have to do with acoustics and everything in between to make sure that they don't impact wildlife. There's studies, all kinds of stuff that happens. The testing that they were doing had to do, how do whales see or view things, right? They have things, similar to sonar, etc. So when you interact with that and you interfere, guess what's going to happen? They can't see things and they swim into boats and then they die and then they wash ashore. Simple things. And yet in government contracting, which has been going on forever, right, with the Department of War, that simple requirements to make sure that doesn't happen when we're building these massive submarines. These idiots couldn't think to even imagine the pitfalls of that while they were doing some of this development. I mean, this is the stuff that in my industry, when we see people like this, we call them weapons grade imbeciles, because they're stupid and dangerous.
And intractable. Beyond that, of course, there was a lot of money involved. You say,
of course,
there was a lot of money involved.
It's always
and said we were one of the things they said during this whole battle was follow the money. Mm-hmm. Now, Brian, you are chair of the Atlantic County Young Republicans, and that is the official chartered Young Republican organization of Atlantic County. Do I have that right?
Correct.
So we want to make that clear.
It is clear, and that's been, I'm trying not to laugh because sometimes I just can't believe the lack of brain cells that are around. But yes, the Atlantic County Young Republicans, that was formed in 2018, that did all the administrative and all the legal and business incorporated procedural stuff, gets chartered with the Young Republican Federation of New Jersey and chartered with the Young Republican National Federation. We are officially recognized. And the fact that there are individuals and the like that are not only using our name and fundraising off our name makes me wonder, because in normal circumstances, there's accountability right away, but there are outside factors right now, like an election, that are more pressing and that are more prioritized right now. But if, let's say, someone decides to start a pizza place and call it Domino's Pizza, start selling pizza in Domino's Pizza's name, that usually doesn't work out too well.
Right. But I think that, Brian, this is a reflection to try to view it as positively as possible, is a reflection of the success of republicanism
Absolutely.
in the southernmost counties of New Jersey. And now we're talking about uh, Cumberland County, Salem County, Atlantic County, Cape May County. Okay.
Mm.
Tremendous. There's been tremendous growth in the Republican Party there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we have one of only 3 New Jersey congresspersons from that area. Okay. We not too long ago flipped Senate and Assembly seats from Democrat to Republican in that area. And so it's a reflection in a way of the growth and the success of the party. But one thing that parties have to learn as they grow, and this is a good lesson, is there's room enough at the table for everybody.
Yeah.
As you grow.
Yeah. And
there's more for everybody. And when everybody works together, you can keep it growing.
Absolutely. It's not a finite pie. The pie grows. And that works in economics, that works in politics. The idea is, yes, we want more Republicans. We want to work together and work towards the same goal. But sometimes there's power struggles and people want to control things. And guess what? When people try to control things, they never do.
And isn't this really, to get back, really one of the core messages of Charlie Kirk?
Yes.
He was a generous leader and a happy warrior.
Absolutely. And he was willing to have conversations, communications, debates with not just people in his own party. Remember, the establishment Republican Party was aghast when Charlie Kirk came on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're like, who's this kid? No, you need to come here. You need to do it our way. You need to kiss the ring. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to ask permission to do anything. And he just said, no, I'm a conservative and I'm going to form this organization. And he turned it into the juggernaut that teamed up with Donald Trump and the MAGA movement to make sure that he was elected in 2024, and we have Trump 2.0. So ultimately, Charlie saw this. I mean, not to go back, but his vision at such a young age, he saw this. He knew this. And that's why he was able to create this organization that was so successful to not only connect directly to young people in high school and college, you didn't have to go through the gatekeepers to ask permission. He just went and did it.
And then as he became more and more successful, the gatekeepers came to him.
Yes.
Okay, the gatekeepers came to him. But I can't tell you in the last few days since his untimely death, assassination, how many people came forward and said, I was empowered by Charlie.
Yeah.
And people who said, I went to Charlie and I said, Charlie, I think we should be doing this. And Charlie said, great. And you're going to do it, he said to them. And he empowered that person to do it and set that person on a mission. Okay.
Yes.
And people who said, one of them that she posted is from right here in New Jersey, Justine Murray, I think her name was, that posted and said, I wasn't even that, he empowered me. I never knew I could go this far. And there were numerous people that were working at the highest level with him, young people, that said, I never dreamed I'd be here were it not for Charlie, and told me, you can do it. You're going to do it. And isn't that a wonderful spirit to remember and to impart?
Absolutely. Look, he was the embodiment of being a facilitator. He wasn't a dictator. He didn't say what you can and can't do. He facilitated. He allowed and he empowered all these people to do what they wanted to focus on. And he never controlled anything. He never sought to. All he wanted to do was bring people out, get them engaged, and empower them to go on their journey, on their path. And
that's what a leader does, gets the best out of people.
Yeah. Instead of saying you can't play in the sandbox or you can't sit at the table.
Well, we certainly hope that, and I believe that Jack Ciattarelli is that kind of leader, will bring that kind of leadership to New Jersey. That won't be the kind of leader like Murphy was, who said, if taxes are your issue, then you don't belong to New Jersey. What the hell kind of welcoming or empowering is that?
Oh, it's representative of a guy who's not from Jersey, just like Mikey Sherrill is not from New Jersey. She's from Virginia. And it's very simple to talk about tolls, taxes, housing, and utility bills because it's just ravaging everybody in New Jersey. Those costs, it's what happens when you can't afford to live here. Guess what? You leave and the people around you leave with you and you have a mass exodus.
You're driving people away.
Yeah.
Another thing that he said, he was asked about the Bill of Rights, and he said, that's beyond my pay grade.
It's above his pay grade. Yeah. This is one of the 50 governors in the United States who's supposed to have sworn to protect not only the New Jersey Constitution, but the United States Constitution, to not do anything that impacts. I mean, this is when people aren't involved, you get someone like a Governor Murphy or a Mikey Sherrill. And look, we've got less than 100 days until the election.
Right.
And again, this is not being pessimistic. This is ringing the bell. The fact that the Democrats are going to spend $25 million, national Democrats, $25 million in New Jersey, and national Republicans are not meeting that. And again, objectively speaking, Jack came up short 4 years ago, 85,000 votes. And in the 4 years since then, people have moved into New Jersey, people have left New Jersey. People have died in New Jersey, people have born or turned 18 in New Jersey. It's a different electorate. Joe Biden's not the president, President Trump is. And it's got to be all hands on deck. And again, everyone has to get out because it doesn't have to do with anything other than simplicity. Tolls, taxes, utility bills, and housing. Costs. It's that simple. Jack's a CPA. That's so much better than what we've had in the past. Let him fix it. Let all these Democrats and independents, at best, worst case scenario, there's a Democratic legislature. I mean, as much as I want to pick up 13 seats in the General Assembly, I think it might be a tough push, but it can happen. But the sheer fact that the last time the Republicans had control of the General Assembly or the state Senate, I was in middle school.
Oh my God.
So we're talking a quarter of a century where the Democrats have had complete control of the state legislature. If you don't like it, change it back in 2 years.
And Brian,
give the guy a chance.
Everybody's got to be shoulder to shoulder on this. And Brian, I understand too that the National Young Republicans are going to send a contingent into New Jersey.
Yeah,
is that right?
That is right. We're going to do a YR deployment October 25th out of Hamilton, where just like we did when we did our small, tiny part to flip the first in 2019 when we did a YR deployment, all YRs from neighboring states and maybe even further are going to come, and we're going to knock on doors for the weekend and hopefully make a significant impact. So October 25th, we're going to be doing that YR deployment.
Fantastic. And who should somebody contact if they want to get involved in this?
Contact us on social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. We have an email address listed there as well. We can send out the links to sign up. for anyone that wants to be involved. That's part of a YR organization that's chartered, and we would love to have the support and the help to knock on doors.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Brian, we're 50 minutes in. It's been great chatting with you, as always. And we may get a chance to do this again before the election as we get closer to the election. But thank you for everything you're doing, Brian. As a young conservative, you give me great, great hope in the future, and hope right now on the heels of the tragic events of last week is what we really, really need. So I look at you and young people like you, and I said to myself, oh my God, I think we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay.
What I'd say is try to utilize Charlie's courage and try to be more like what he tried to do, facilitate these conversations, and not to get theatrical, but they can't kill us all. They can't kill us all.
And that's what we try to stand for, is open and honest, respectable discussion.
Yeah.
And let that be what we continue to be all about, no matter how nasty or ugly or vituperative or destructive the other side gets.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Dan.
Good night. Have a good one. Take care.
Take care.